Hi, everybody, and welcome back to English with Dr. Jim. Today, I'm going to start a new playlist about numbers. It's always difficult to understand numbers in a second language. I studied Japanese for a long time, and Japanese numbers are in different group sizes, which made it incredibly difficult. So I want to give you a heads up to be able to help your study move forward. And there are lots of different kinds of numbers that we see and use every day, which is why numbers are critical. So as you can see on the screen here, listening, not just listening to numbers and understanding, but being able to say numbers as well. So some everyday numbers, for example, time, what time is it? 9:30, 9:45, 10:15, quarter to 10. Money, of course, fractions, which are really tricky, 3/4, 3/4 in English. I know in different languages, sometimes the bottom is read first. Credit card numbers, we know there are 16 numbers in a traditional credit card, so we need to read those numbers, and we need to read the numbers with pauses to understand the 4-number groups. It's the same with phone numbers. Depending on where you live, your phone number could be 10 numbers. So in Ontario, where I live, there's a 3-digit area code, and then a 3-digit number, and then a 4-digit number. And so the tone that you use, the intonation, and the stops that you make, the pauses, help separate numbers into groups. I'll show you how to do that. Purchases and taxes, obviously, in Ontario, where I live in Canada, we have a very high tax rate. So when you purchase something, what's a good example? A t-shirt, then you pay 13% tax. So we want to make sure that we understand those numbers with money and taxes. Train, flight, hotel numbers. So for instance, if you fly to another country on Air Canada, they could have an Air Canada number, could be 2 digits, Air Canada 03 or Air Canada 4 or Air Canada 05. Or you could have a 3-digit number or a 4-digit number. Usually those are domestic numbers. And then down this one, everyday numbers, train, flight, hotel room. So for instance, 2155 is the 55th room on the 21st floor. So I'll help you with that. And then on the right-hand side, so dealing with really big numbers. So economies around the world, how many billions and trillions of dollars are in the economy? Populations, number of people around the world, there are about 7 billion people in the world. And changing metric to imperial. So in Canada, we kind of have both. In America, they tend to have imperial or gallons and miles. In Canada, we have kilometers and liters, and making that change can be tricky. Volumes, distances, so how many kilometers away, how many gallons again, liters and square meters and cubic meters, particularly when you have to pay the water bill at the end of the month in Ontario. It measures cubic meters of water that you've used. Math formulas from school, so x plus y equals z or something like that. I'll help you with those. And then finally, distances, which are just really big numbers, the solar system, for instance, light years, and kilometers, maybe as well, about how far things are away. So numbers are really tricky. Let's start with some big ones, just with a really basic number. And I know you're going to be shocked. Oh, look at how big that number is, but don't panic. There's lots and lots of really big numbers. So let's work on this together. And let me show you the first trick. Okay, so let me change to red here. So I want you to separate it into groups of 3. It's really important. Whoa, it looks like it's really important to separate numbers in English-speaking countries. I can't think of any that don't do it this way, into groups of 3. And then the first one of each group. Remember, we're reading from, in English, we read from left to right, but we got to make sure we start on the right at 0. So when you're dividing the numbers up, every third number starts with an H, okay? So it's really important that we don't necessarily look at the entire number. If it helps you, then just look at these little three number groups. Okay, and H stands for 100. So let's break this down a little bit more, and let's make them smaller. So let's start on this side. And this number, 678. 678. Okay, now we can move that H over to the next one. Go ahead. What's the number? 679. Well, that's easy. 679. 79. And then let's move this one over again. We continue, we carry the H. Every one of the third letters from the right think of it as having an H over top. 855. And the last one, got it? 268. Okay, so individually, don't get panicked by just a really big number. Look at them in individual pieces. Okay? Now, the other thing we can do is underneath the number, we can put some things to help you. That's a T. And the next one is a big M. I think you know what that is. Do you know what the next one is? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is M. 10, 11, 12 from the right is B. I'll help you. It starts with BI. So the 10, 11, 12 group is billion, as you probably know. So let's go back. Don't get panicked. Don't get panicked. Let's go ahead and put the H's back. And then let's start over here. Let's start from the right and gradually get bigger. So what are these numbers? What do they sound like? 678. 679,678. Okay. Let's move over to the next one. 855 million, 679,678. Right? It just continues to get larger. The numbers on the right just repeat. That's fairly easy. Let's go over now to the biggest number. Remember, you were panicked by this. Now we're reading it without difficulty. 268 billion, 855 million, 679,678. So there you have it. It looks really big. If you look at it in pieces, groups of 3, it's much, much easier. Okay, so let's remember the key part to get the bigger numbers is knowing how far over you are. So this is 1, 2, and 3. This is 4, 5, and 6. That's the group that ends with 1,000. 7, 8, and 9. That's the million group. 10, 11, 12. That's the billion group. Okay, so 268 billion, 855 million, 679,678. There you go. Now, the next question is, what happens if the number gets bigger than this? So for instance, if you look at economies and money around the world, or the number of people who have COVID, then the numbers are even bigger than this. Actually, they're not bigger than billion for COVID, but money, economy, loans, it's much, much, much larger than this. So let's go ahead and clear this. And then let's move on to the next one where we have a chance to make it a little bit bigger. So just hang on for a second. Okay, so we've talked about 1,000, we've talked about million, we've talked about billion. So what are the next words? So I can help you a little bit. Let's do this one. It starts with T. Are you familiar with what the next one is after billion? It's trillion. Okay, I'm putting a capital there. I didn't put a capital on the other ones. I put a capital. So the group from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's add this one, 13, 14, and 15 are trillion. And 16, 17, and 18 are the next one. And I know these numbers are not common, but the teaching point I have for you is less about the numbers and more about the pattern of billion, trillion, and the next one. And so I'm going to cover that in the next slide. So hang on for a minute, but let's work on this one. I'll give you the answer. It's quadrillion. And what's really important is the pattern. So we're going to talk about that in the next slide. But first, let's just go ahead and add some numbers here. So let's add something easy to draw. Let's add 9, 2, 5, 3, 4, 4. So let's say we need to read this number. Again, let's put the H's in. 100, 100, break it down into smaller pieces. No problem. This is not a crazy number. We can read it. 100, 100, 100. Okay, I'll give you a second. Go ahead and pause the video if you need it. Let's start over here. I hope you can see my light. Let me change it to a little bit easier color. Can you see my green there? Let's start here. 925 quadrillion. 300, always do 100. 44 trillion. 268 billion. 855 million. 679,678. So there are 18 numbers on the screen, and you're able to read them so other people can understand them. Even native speakers of English are going to struggle with trillion and quadrillion, maybe even billion if you haven't seen it in a while. These are big numbers, not necessarily every day, but certainly million we see every day. Billion, if you look in the newspaper and read stock market information, you see billions every day, trillions every day. Okay, so what's the most important part is, let's look at this pattern: quadrillion, trillion, and billion. I want to talk about that in the next slide. So let's go ahead and clear this, and let's move on to the next slide. Okay, there we go. So over here now we can see billion, and we can also fill this in now, right? So let's go ahead and fill that in with trillion. And I'll try to make it line up nicely, but I don't know if I can. Oh, that's not bad. And the last one is quadrillion. Okay. Okay, so we can see the patterns now. So billion is 2, trillion is 3, quadrillion is 4. So quad is the prefix at the beginning of a word that means 4. Tri, as you probably know, tri is the beginning prefix for something to do with 3. So let's go down here and take a look at what some of the other categories are, so you can see how this is going to work. Let's do this one. You can see here bilingual, and you can also see bicycle. So that's billion. Bilingual is how many languages? 2. So I'm helping you be at least bilingual, or maybe trilingual. Bicycle, how many tires? 2. Bicycle, bilingual, and billion. So then what's the next pattern? If a bicycle has 2 tires, how many bicycles, how many tires on a bicycle that has 3? Let's go ahead and fill that in. Tricycle. Okay, now if you're not exactly sure if I've lost my mind, hang on for a second. I'm going to pause because I want to get a picture of that for you. So hang on for just a second. Okay, I wanted to show you tricycle. So if we go over here, and I'll bring that photo in. You can see here it says tricycles, and there are a whole bunch of 3-wheeled bicycles, usually for children. As for seniors and older people, it's also possible to say the word tricycle, but 3 wheels is called a tricycle. And as children, most of us have had one. Okay, so let's go ahead and take that one out of there for right now. Okay, so let's go back here to our chart, right? So we've got bicycle has 2 wheels, tricycle has 3 wheels. So your next question, what is something that has 4 wheels? Well, let's go ahead and add that. Of course, tricycle, trillion. Quadrillion, what's that going to be? Let me help you. Of course, quadricycle. And I know you're thinking, really? I've never heard of a quadricycle before. Okay, quadricycle. There we go. So let's add that to the pattern. Quadricycle. Ooh, that wasn't very nicely spaced there. Just a second. Let me do that one more time. Quadricycle. Whoop, spelling. There we go. Okay. So let me put it a little bit clearer. There we go. Quadricycle. So now what you're wondering is, hey, Jim, have you lost your mind? No. Actually, let's go ahead and bring this information in. The province of Ontario, where I live, I think what I'll do is I'll move everything over. Let's go over here and have a look at this one. Quadricycle program. Let me put it somewhere where we can handle it. Okay, here we go over here. Okay, And I'll make this a little bit smaller so we can see. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm going to have to clear that. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay. So here we are with the Quadricycle pilot program. And this is for the province of Ontario in Canada where I live. So there you can see Ontario, and it says large quadricycle pilot program. Learn about operating a large quadricycle on roads in your local area. Large quadricycles are bikes that can seat 12 or more people and are often used for tourism. So quadricycles actually exist, and they're really large bicycles with 4 wheels. And yes, it is. I was surprised when I looked this information up because driver requirements, vehicle requirements, they could be electric or not, and they're capable. There are things that they need to be able to do and not be able to do for them to be able to be used on Ontario roads, particularly for tourism. I think you can imagine an electric or pedal bicycle, 4 wheels, and I can get a picture. I don't think it's going to be difficult to do that. Hang on, I'll get a picture for you. Okay, so here we are in Wikipedia, quadricycle. Over here, quadricycle, an EU vehicle classification. It's actually a real word. It isn't as common, I didn't think, in North America, but it's clearly common in other parts of the world. So there's an example of quadricycle for you. So let me take that away. So let's get back to this. We have, I'll go ahead and fill this in now so that we can just complete this activity. So quadricycle. Quadricycle, and then we have tricycle. Okay. So if that's the pattern, and we already know that this is quadrillion, and then we know that this is trillion. So let's go ahead and then fill in those blank spaces. And the teaching point that I have for you is not that these new words should be something you remember immediately, but do you remember the pattern? Bi is 2, tri is 3, quad is 4. Can you use that to understand more when you hear it? And are you able to say it as well? So if tricycle has 3 wheels, if bicycle has 2 wheels, tricycle has 3 wheels, quadricycle has 4 wheels, bilingual is 2 languages. What is 3 languages? Maybe in your country, this is very common. It's not necessarily in Canada, but I know in European countries, trilingual is people who speak 3 languages. And of course, 4 languages. Go ahead. Quadricycle. Or sorry, quadrilingual. Whoops. There you go. Quadrilingual, people who speak 4 languages. Now, as you speak more and more languages, like some of the European countries, particularly Italy, I think Germany is like that. I would just say multilingual. But quadrilingual is fine. People who speak 4 languages, trilingual, bilingual. Okay, so what you're thinking is, what are some other examples that we use every day? Okay, how about this one? How about this Olympic sport with 3 different activities? The first one is swimming, the second one is cycling, and the third one is running a marathon, or at least running, and it's called triathlon. Okay, so tri means, of course, those 3 sports. So let's now go backwards. Did you know that at the Winter Olympics, there's something that has only 2 sports? And if it has only, 2 activities, if it has 2 activities, it's going to be called what? Of course, biathlon. And now in Canada, this is somewhat popular. Most people sort of understand this idea. Okay, biathlon, 2 sports. Hang on. Let me go ahead and bring that in so that you can see it down here. So there's biathlon at the Olympic Games. It's skiing and shooting, 2 sports, skiing and shooting. Okay, very common at the Olympic Games, not common in countries with warmer weather, but it's well known in Canada, although Canada is not a world power, but certainly some of the Northern European countries are very good at biathlon. Okay, so we know the pattern works. Now let's go over here and say, okay, does it work for quadrathlon? No, but at the Olympic Games, I believe there's the pentathlon and the decathlon, which means it's not that the word doesn't exist. There's just no big sport with only 4 activities. The pentathlon is 5 or 6, and the decathlon is 10 activities. Go ahead and look that up. It's the same pattern. And so if someone says decathlon, can you understand athlon? Okay, and then deca. Well, decimal is 10. So the decathlon is at the Olympic Games as well, and it's a world sport as well. So the pattern works, but it just doesn't work for the example because there's none of them that has 4. Okay, so let's move on to the last pattern. Are you familiar with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Let me go and get his photo. Okay, so here's a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger in his younger days. He's really famous as being a bodybuilder, and then he moved into politics, and he's an actor. And one of the things that made him very famous was this muscle group right here. They're very famous muscles. Everybody likes to show them when they're feeling strong. Do you know what they're called? Let me help you. This muscle group has 2 muscles in it. So of course it's going to start with bi. So let's move Arnold out of there. So let's go ahead and add that to our list. So bi, and since it's a muscle group, it's called ceps. So biceps. Okay, biceps. Now, if we know that biceps is 2 muscles, then we can also do 3 muscles. So that, of course, is called triceps. And finally, go ahead. What's the muscle group with 4? Go ahead. Of course, quadriceps. So we can see the pattern, and let me show you what that looks like. I'll bring another photo in here. Here we go. Here's some information. Let me do it this way, make it a little bit bigger so you can see. Okay, so you can see that the muscle groups are listed here. So let me point out this one. Biceps, that's right here. That's 2 muscles together make a bicep. Triceps are the muscles on the back. This is a 3 muscle group. This is called triceps. And if you'll notice down here, these are quadriceps, and the quadriceps are thigh muscles on the tops of your legs. And the reason they're called quadriceps is because the muscle group includes 4. There are 2 on the front and 2 on the back. It's called quadriceps. Okay, so let me go ahead and get rid of that. All right, my teaching point is, yes, numbers, but more importantly, can you understand word groups? So you can see quadrillion is 4, quadrilingual is 4, quadricycle is 4 wheels, quadriceps is 4 muscles, tri is 3, trilingual is 3 languages, tricycle is 3 wheels, triathlon is 3 activities or 3 events within one big sport. Triceps are 3 muscles, biceps are 2 muscles, biathlon's 2 activities, bicycle is 2 wheels, bilingual is 2 languages. Billion. So yes, it's big numbers, absolutely. Sometimes it's numbers we don't see every day. But what's really important for you is can you understand the patterns? And there are lots of examples of patterns in English where if you understand the pieces of the word, it might help you to understand. And I'll talk more about those later. But this is the end of the number explanation. I'll come back and talk about it in pieces. And I'm also now going to add to this playlist some number practices where I'll read some numbers and then I'll give you a chance to listen before I give the answer. So there's a good practice activity. Good luck. Keep fighting. Okay. Now, if anyone wants to go ahead and read these, if you copy them onto Vocaroo and you attach the link in the comments, for the first 3 people who make a comment, I'll give you feedback about your sound and intonation and pronunciation. I'll help you with all of that. I always promise I'll do that. Good luck. English is not a short-term thing. Keep some notes and plan on this being a very long activity. Good luck. Keep fighting.